takeoff, and estimating, and what changes when your estimating platform is actually connected to your ERP system. With me today is Jared, our Director of Solution Consulting. He'll be jumping in for the live demo. Jared lives in the product every day, and we'll show you exactly how it works. We work with construction companies everywhere on the pre-construction and on an estimating side. Quick look at who we work with. The reason I show you this is that the problem we're about to talk about isn't unique to one trade or company size. It shows up everywhere. Here's a core problem. Estimating and finance are disconnected. Pre-con lives in one world, finance lives in another, and the handoff between them is where things break down. The estimate isn't just a bid document. Once you win the job, it becomes a project budget, the baseline for cost control, and the foundation for every forecast through the life of the job. Decisions made early ripple through everything. A clean handoff means your financial team starts strong. A messy one means they're playing catch up from day one. So here's what the disconnect actually looks like. Precon lives in estimating software. Finance lives in the ERP or accounting platforms. Different systems, different owners, different priorities, and no direct connection between them. The gap in the middle is where the problem lives. And here's how companies are filling that gap today. Your estimator finishes a bid, export it, and someone in finance rebuilds the budget from scratch in the ERP. Every time that happens, you're introducing risk. Which estimate is the real one? What changed between bid and award? Nobody knows. Confusion starts. You're flying blind, and risk increases every day. And this is a version control problem that kills teams. Finance has to rebuild the budget after the fact, after the estimator has already moved on to the next bid. So now you got the estimating version, the finance version, maybe a few Excel files floating around in between. Nobody knows which one is current. That uncertainty is where scope gets missed and margins start to erode. What does this actually cost? Let's break it down. Here are 3 areas where a disconnected workflow hits you: time, money, and profitability. First, lost time. When a job gets awarded, it should be a moment to celebrate. Instead, it becomes an admin scramble. We get burned just trying to get the budget set up properly in the ERP. Your team is re-entering data, chasing down the right numbers, and the job hasn't even started yet. Nobody gets to appreciate that win. Second, financial risk. Every time someone rekeys data, there's a chance something goes wrong. A missing scope item, an incorrect cost code, a broken job cost structure. These aren't hypothetical. They happen consistently, and the problem is they're invisible until actuals start coming in. By then, damage is already done. Manual entry introduces real financial risk, and most teams don't even find out until it's too late to do anything about it. Third, and this is probably the one that really stings everybody, profitability. This is where, without accurate starting data, forecasting becomes reactive instead of proactive. You can't forecast early if the baseline is wrong. You can't course correct if you don't see the problem coming. And when actuals finally show up or show a cost overrun, you're already deep in the job. The window to fix it is closed. That's money you're not getting back. Put it all together, and here's where you land. Teams can't see true cost exposure early. Decisions get made too late to matter, and margins erode quietly, job by job, without anyone being able to pinpoint exactly where it went. This is actually the status quo for a lot of contractors today, and it doesn't have to be. So probably ask, what's the fix? Here it is. Stack plus ERP integration. The idea is simple. Connect your estimating platform directly to your financial system, so the estimate that wins the job automatically becomes the budget that runs the job. No rebuild, no reentry, no version confusion. So let me show you what that actually looks like. Integration means that estimate, budget, forecast, and actuals all flow in one continuous line. No manual handoffs between them. The estimate you build and stack becomes a budget in your ERP automatically. As the job progresses, your forecast stays anchored in the original estimate. And when actuals come in, you're comparing them directly against what was bid in real time. That's the visibility most contractors don't have today, and it changes how you run every job. For ETHOSystems clients specifically, we're talking about the Stack and Sage integration, Sage Intacct or Sage 300, depending on what you're running. Three things this unlocks: real-time syncing between Stack and Sage, excuse me. The moment an estimate is finalized, it's in Sage. No rebuild, no lag, reduced manual entry, duplicate work is eliminated, cost codes stay aligned, and the chance of missed or miscategorized cost drops dramatically. Improved project analytics, better reporting, better forecasting, and real visibility into what actually drives costs on every job. This is the outcome we're working towards today. One source of truth, Stack on the estimating side, Sage on the financial side, connected directly. No Excel in the middle, no reentry, no which version is a real one. Your estimator and your financial teams are always looking at the same data at the same time. That alignment alone changes the dynamic between those two departments, and it changes how confidently you can run into a job. Just to ground you on the full Stack platform, there are three areas or three buckets: plan, spec, and document management. Quantity and material takeoffs, or excuse me, as you can see, document management on the left, quantity and material takeoffs in the middle, and detailed cost estimating and proposals on the right. The Sage integration connects that estimating piece directly into your financial workflow. So from that moment, from the moment a job is won, the data is already where it needs to be. And one more thing before we get into the demo: Stack for Excel, powered by Velixo. If your team lives in Excel for reporting, proposals, or financial analysis, this is a game changer. It connects live Stack data directly into your spreadsheets. No exports required. Your files update automatically as the estimate changes. So your report, your proposals, your financial models, always current, always accurate. No manual work to get them there. All right, that's the setup. Now let me hand it to Jared to show you exactly how this platform works.
So I appreciate it, Phil. Jen, you might need to make me, oh, never mind, it's going to prompt me immediately. Let me share my screen. Perfect. Appreciate it, Phil. So yeah, from my standpoint, I'm going to kind of walk through a broad overview of Stack, starting from just simply creating the project all the way to it's been awarded. We now need to get into the ERP system. What's that workflow? When I first get into the system, one thing I always like to kind of highlight and draw attention to is Stack is entirely cloud-based, right? So basically what that means is none of the data is going to be having to be on a server. It's going to be all stored obviously via the cloud, but that also has kind of a ripple effect when we start to talk about the updates in the system. As updates come up, as new features get released, as you see over on the right-hand side, you can see we're going at a rapid rate with a lot of things. And really the nice thing to all the end users is you're not going to see any really downtime with that. A lot of on-prem systems, legacy systems you may be leveraging, as an update comes out, you need to make sure the IT comes in, rolls that out, and make sure nothing's wrong with it, the workflows are in there. And what that does is that interrupts a lot of, obviously, the processes. So with Stack, as an update comes out, all the users need to do is just either refresh their homepage, log back in, or log into it, I should say, into Stack, and they're on the latest version. So again, a lot of quality of life enhancements that you're going to start to see on that side of things. Now, as you get into more of the different workflows that can arise, what we're looking at here is essentially a list of all of the bidding opportunities and bids we have in the current system, right? There's a lot of ways to configure this depending upon the needs of the users. One of them could be, I just simply want to see all of the projects I'm currently working on by my statuses, hide everything else. I don't need to see all of that information. Or even if we have a larger organization, you have a lot of different users, you can break these out into either offices, or even as you see here, where the individuals themselves, just narrowing down what I know I need to work on allowing me just to be as effective as possible. Now, in order to create or start an estimate, pretty straightforward. See the big green button in the top? I can select this and say, great, here's a new blank estimate, leverage that as a starting point. That being said, a lot of customers also want to have some sort of templatized structure in terms of when they're creating these estimates. Maybe jobs are very similar from one to another. And Stacks can obviously enable you to be able to do that. I can click on the three little dots. I can say, great, this could be a template. I can make a copy of that. I can make adjustments to that, or whatever I might need to from that side of it. Now, as we get into more substance here, the home page is obviously going to be a collection of where we house all of the more high-level information around the project. When's it due? Who's going to be involved? You can see we have these project fields, which are going to be user-defined fields that enable us to say, something like, what type of work are we doing? Where is it located? Could also be maybe the GC that you're going to have on there, or anything like that, or even the owner. These are essentially just custom fields that are able to allow us to tag this particular project in that meaningful way. Now, as we start to scroll down, a few things I like to highlight here. Depending upon the work you might do, might kind of outline where we go next. For some of the users who are more on, say, the roofing, residential, commercial buildings, or even landscaping side of things, something like aerial imagery is crucial to them, and Stack obviously provides exactly that. We're going to be able to put in the address if we're working on a residential or commercial project, and be able to retrieve all of those aerial imageries. So one thing that really stood out to me when Phil was showing that PowerPoint was there's so many today in day and age disconnected systems everywhere, right? How can we, as a Stack organization, consolidate that for our end users? And as opposed to going out to something like a Google Maps and downloading it, then uploading it, let's help solve that problem, simplify that a lot for our users. You're going to see that throughout the presentation. Now, the next thing I might want to do down here is you'll see libraries. Especially on those larger organizations, this comes so important to them because they may need to break out libraries based off of something like an area, a region, a trade, whatever it might need to be. You can have as many different libraries to the system. This is also going to allow some sort of organizational aspect, which I'll show you in a moment when we get more into the plan side of things. All right, now, first step here, let's assume I need to take my files. I have them in a raw PDF format, or they get emailed to me. How do I get them in the system? Well, what I'm going to do is just follow the green kind of button right here. I'm going to go into my uploading. And when I do this, there's several ways that Stack's going to enable you to upload them. Whether that's something like a OneDrive, you have a Google Dropbox, even if it's a direct, like a URL link that enables you to just immediately download, you can have it there. Or even if you just saved it onto your device, or even if you get an email, I could drag and drop it from the email. Now, a couple things to make note of here. I'm going to upload this individual PDF, or the zip folder. And in that zip folder, there's those two PDFs that are standalone, separate. I haven't broken out any other plan pages in them. I want to show you kind of how easy it is to get the project going. So in this zip folder, you'll see also, I'm not uncompressing anything. I'm taking just the raw data, getting it into the platform as effectively and efficiently as possible, which essentially enables me to go start doing my takeoff that much more efficiently, right? So over on the left-hand side, you're going to start to see the system's going to go through. And when it does this process, it starts to pull in all those plans. It's going through and not only just bringing the foldering structure, but it's going through and identifying, expand this real quickly, it's going through and identifying, hey, here's all of the plan pages that you have, right? It's breaking all of those out individual. It's also naming them all, right? And numbering all, right? So as I go into some of this detail in my cover sheet here is a good example. We can see a lot of that. It's gone through and put in the correct sheet number. It's also smart enough to identify the word sheet title is on every single page. Well, I probably don't want to have that when I have this more compressed view to just see sheet title for everything. So it said, let's eliminate that and just pull in what the title actually is, which in case is that cover sheet. Right? Now, in those rare circumstances where you need to force it to look somewhere, maybe it did pull in that cover sheet, you can always force it by auto naming and just highlighting little boxes around, hey, just look here for this number. Same thing with the title as well, and then we'll go through and just kind of update that search. But as you see here, it's going to typically get it off on the first pass. And the nice thing is you've taught it every page number, right? What that means is those day and age of you going back in and having to hyperlink every single section, plan page, every time it says the word A101, I need you to draw that over here, that's gone. It's doing this all on its own. So as I see in this first floor plan, I can click on that hyperlink. I can reference, say, a detail sheet, or in this case, the plan. I can even have this, because it's cloud-based, as on as many different browsers or different tabs in the top that I need to have. I can have this under different monitors if I want to. There's a lot of ways to kind of initiate. And then again, you can also see here, more hyperlinks bringing into that details as I need it. So again, what I kind of classify as that admin time, just to get dramatically reduced. You're not spending so many hours just doing little things. The other aspect of this as well, and starting to go into some of the AI conversation, is I have this huge file, this huge different mechanical drawings, general, architectural, plumbing, all of that. And maybe I'm a contractor who just focuses on one of those different divisions. How do I consolidate this view? Well, again, a couple ways to do the same action. Easiest way is just right-clicking or clicking on those little dots here and saying, let's classify that by the discipline, right? Let me go in there and break out that folders all by my architectural, my structural, electrical, mechanical, plumbing, all of that. And essentially what it's doing is it's reading that initial cover page as a reference guide to go out and do this. So again, it's just reducing a lot of that admin time to just help those users find exactly what they need to see, so they're not sitting there wandering, going back from slides to slides or pages to pages or anything like that. Another area that we're going to start to help a lot of that time savings out is something more of, I have specifics. Let me find, we're on this floor plan, let me find, all my studios, or maybe the word is concrete footing, or whatever it might be. I can go into the search panel and just type in the word studio or foundation, or again, whatever it might need to be. And the system is not only going to highlight it, hey, here it is on the page, here's everywhere that that word is mentioned, but it's also going to identify that over here. It's going to filter off these views and just show you the plan pages that have that particular word or phrase or whatever it might be on it. It's also going to identify the number of times it's found that. So again, if you have it on like a one page, you have one time it's mentioned, another page there's 19, well, chances are there's a lot more detail that I want to start off with on those pages. So a little ability to help expedite that time, right? Now, as I start to get into the takeoff, there's a couple things that kind of need to happen first and foremost. The first step of any takeoff platform is you've got to set the scale, right? And Stack's going to go through and give you kind of a recommendation of what that scale is. But when we start to get into the actual quantification of it, a lot of ways we can start. We can say, let's just get a quick linear foot, quick area. I can go into this new measurement field. I could also go over into my takeoff panel, which allows me to kind of see basically a summary of all the takeoff that I've done on this entire plan set. But I could go in and say, I want to make this an area. I want to do a drop count, where that could come into play. Could be if we're doing like an electrician running conduit, and I know I'm going to need to run this conduit, and every time I have a certain marker, it's going to drop down 10 feet. Well, that's going to be our drop. Or even if we're doing more again on that residential commercial roofing, we need to see the pitches. Same thing even with concrete volumetric if we're doing something like a slab on grade. Whatever the measurement is, there's a lot of those calculations that we're able to run on the back. Now, as we get into more of the in-depth side of things, going into our library, I mentioned earlier we can have several different libraries based upon division, could be region, however the end user needs to see it. This library is going to house all of those individual components of your estimate. Think something from, you know, your 2x4s, your box of nails, to something like your labor, your equipment, or anything else like that in between. So you could select and go into each of these folders, finding if we needed to find something like a concrete slab structural work. I'm going to open up this structural, open up my material. Here's going to be all the different PSIs that we have. All of these items are going to also have on the back end a dollar value associated, right? So as you're building out your estimate, you're also acquiring that final bid side of things. And I'm going to show you what that looks like in a moment. Now, as I've gone through this and I want to help expedite time more, we introduce a concept called an assembly. Some users may know that. For the users who don't, essentially what an assembly is a way to do a single takeoff or a single unit of measurement, and it's driving multiple different items. So again, we'll stay on the concrete side of things. Going into a slab work, we're going to do just this 2D volumetric here. Inside the slab work, it's now asking me, as opposed to just going through and getting quantities yet, what is going to be these certain variables? What's your depth, right? 6 inches. What's going to be your waste factor? To an average 15. What's your productivity to be placed for finishing? What's that grade? So you can start to put in these variables, and obviously those are going to start to drive that quantification. So in order to get a total of concrete volume for 2D, we need to know that depth, and then I need to put in what type of concrete we're using, what type of aggregate we're going to use, or reinforcements are we going to use, what is going to be essentially the labor. So you can just choose these options as an a la carte. The great thing is these are entirely configurable by the end user, and really what it helps us out as creating a standardization that senior estimator can create this, allowing the junior estimator to be able to simply follow through and fill that out. All right. So now we have our depth, our area. We go in, we just create basically by clicking points around. When we're done, double click, and then I can finish that metric or finish that area for break. All right. Now, again, simple way just to do some takeoff. Let's expedite this process significantly. I'm going to hide all that takeoff here. So assuming we're going to go in this floor plan and I want to go out and do all of my doors, do all my windows, walls, everything like that, that's going to take some time to manually do that. So how can I have Stack help me out? That's going to be over on this Stack Assist, and I'm telling the system, hey, you go out and do all this measurements for me. I don't want to do this, right? Go out and measurement my doors, my windows, my rooms, my walls, all of those areas. And the system's smart enough and will go ahead and recognize all of them. You can see how quick it is as well. In the upload, we're doing kind of like a, what I call like a pre-rinse cycle of this. We're going through and doing a lot of back-end data ahead of time. So the end user isn't having to sit behind a progress bar waiting for to do the takeoff or go through any of those additional steps. It's really fast, allowing them to go get the quantifications, tie those to the correct items, move on to the next area that we needed to. All right. So as I also kind of collapse this, one other area I want to kind of talk about when we get into the estimate side of things is actually over here on the right-hand panel is this Stack Assist. This works as like if you're leveraging any sort of like LLM, ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, whatever, Copilot, whatever you're using out there today. What we found is a lot of people will take their plans or even their spec sheets or anything like that, upload it into those platforms and tell it to summarize, give me more detail, right? And it does do a good job through that. But the problem is it's a very disconnected software. And again, as Phil mentioned, we want to help solve that. So within Stack, we're going to kind of consolidate that. You're just in the system. You can ask any sort of question, give me the footing detail, tell me about the slab. The rule of thumb with this is you're only as good as the question you ask. If you ask a broad, tell me about the project, you're going to get a broad answer. But if you use those specifics, like give me all the footing details on A101 or a structural page, I should say, then it's going to give you those specifics, including any sort of link to that, where it's found that image or found that resource, right? So assuming that we've now done all of the takeoff from this standpoint, it's now time to go over and start to do that estimate portion. What we could do is two different ways. Phil had shown we can leverage the Lixo application to tie it directly into your spreadsheet. So we can just go into Excel, be able to sync all that data to those specific formulas, or having more of an all-in-one, more collaboration with Stack. This allows me just to go over into my estimating tab, which is basically going to have all of the different options, bells, whistles, everything that I put in there, including all of those different pricing. Now, one thing that always comes up in this is everyone goes, well, hey, it says $0. Why does it say that? It is just demo data. It's meant to be generic on there because when we include specifics, everyone goes, $15 for that. That's not what I have. So again, just keep that in mind. This would be your information, your items, your cost that's associated with it, that proprietary knowledge, all in-house. This is just a avenue where we can go in there and give flexibility to overwrite what you may have in your database, or I should say kind of bypass that as a one-time, fee or wherever we need to add in here. It also allows you to revert back to your initial database by just saying, I'm going to reset with that unit cost. Now, one thing we see, especially from people who may be making that journey over to Excel, from Excel over into Stack, is Excel is great because of that flexibility. But Excel is also terrible because also that same flexibility can cost you a project. No one knows what's been done. Formulas can get broken. So a lot of those formulas are obviously done in the back end. And then within Stack, we're going to go ahead and bold out any of these variables that have been overwritten or bypassed in any sort of format, just making it easy for the end user to say, what has been adjusted? What do I need to review? Oh, that's meant to say $5, not 5, or 500 in that case. I can easily be able to identify that, right? Now, when it comes time to, this is great data, I may want to see this into, say, a different format. I want to be able to break those out in different views. All the different views can be saved over on this right-hand panel, and they're through this concept, what we call as tags and labels. So as we're going through and quantifying the estimate, we can tag that to things like our base bid, our floors, our options. And a good visual of that, I'm going to pull in a different project over here in a moment. Perfect. So under here is a separate project we have. I'm currently looking in this particular view by my building, right? Underneath that, I wanted to then see it by each of those different floors. And I can see the total values of everything, right? I can see if floor 4 is significantly, and 3 are significantly higher than 2. So I can start to drill into why is that? Where is that cost being applied? Well, again, I can start to see the breakout. Hey, we're missing, looks like all my plumbing, HVAC, electrical isn't really finished out. And then I can even drill into, well, what has already been done, right? Here's all the ceiling framing. And again, start to ask these questions and drill down into that more granular detail. Or even if you wanted to see something as simple of, I just want to see a bill of material, right? I don't need to see anything else. Where's my material? What's it broken out by? Boom, we can break it out by this. And I can also choose to even break it out by floor or CSI or scope or whatever you want to break it out by. So again, it allows that same Excel flexibility, but without all of those headaches of broken information or misinformation or anything like that. Now, second and last thing I want to kind of cover with this is great, Jared, but we're not a nonprofit organization. Where am I going to add my profit in here? Where I'm going to add overhead burdens, all of those. This little ribbon in the bottom, this other cost, this is exactly where you're going to do that. This is any indirect or direct cost that you may not need to go out and say quantify with plans or do any sort of takeoff, but I'm going to do something like a labor burden that's going to mark up off of my, as opposed to my entire estimate, I want to make it off of my cost type, right? Which then it's going to ask me, well, where is it going to apply? Well, that's going to be our labor, right? So you can go into these in very granular, apply any specific charges or markups. And then if you see this distribute button, basically that's going to allow me to say, let me bury this in my estimate. So when I get to proposal, it's not going to show, my upstream partner, hey, we have profit of 12.5%, because the first thing they're going to say is, hey, can you drop that down to 12%? And I don't want to do that. So I can just toggle this button off. That's just going to basically take us and spread all of that value throughout the entirety of my estimate that we have. All right. Now, one of the last things I always like to show, and we're going to go back into some of my default view over here, is as we go into this kind of granularity, we're done this breakout. I want to see exactly where anything is, whether it's my piping or whatever. I can actually right click on this measurement and say either go to that plan or go to even the geometry. And it's going to take me back to wherever that plan has that particular takeoff, kind of give me good summarization saying, all right, cool, there it is. There's the only pipe or whatever adjustments we need to do. The nice thing as well is it's not a one-way street. If I wanted to go in and go to my estimate tab, I can also see exactly while I'm building this out in my plan, roughly what it's going to cost us maybe before I do any sort of markups or anything like that, right? So again, it has that all-in-one back and forth information. When it is time to finally take this project and push this over to, say, Sage 300 or an Intact, what you could do is go up into this little dots up here, hit export. I can either do a proposal. I could even push this to Intact in this case, or if I had Sage 300 connected directly to it, I could say, great, push that to Sage 300, and then it's just going to ask what project we're going to be pushing it to. You obviously assign it there, and now the data is going to be over in your project estimate. All right. So again, from my aspect, what we did before I pass this back off to Phil is we took an estimate from a blank, basically a set of plans, went through, did all the quantification, did all of the cost manipulation on the worksheet, all in one platform, and then seamlessly pushed that to the Sage 300 system. All right. With that being said, Phil, I'm going to stop sharing and pass it back to you.
Thank you, Jared. And Jen, if I could get the sharing piece as well. Thank you so much. Perfect. All right. So welcome back, everyone. Thank you again to Jared. So with what Jared said, let me put some real numbers behind this. So as you can see from the screen, it's showing 4 hours saved per project. That equals 30% time saved on estimating overall. 89% of customers say Stack speeds up their takeoff and estimating process, and 70% of customers are fully live in under 8 hours. Not weeks, not months, hours. On the growth side, customers see a 28% increase in total bid volume on average. Roofing contractors are seeing 33%, MEP 31%. So 75% of Stack customers see revenue increases by 25% or more. And 2/3 say Stack has made their business more profitable, improved their bid confidence, and saved them hours on every single project. So one thing we like to say at Stack is that these are contracting numbers, not marketing numbers. So obviously with questions, please refer those to Jen. So any questions you have about the Sage integration, anything Jared showed in the demo, or just how maybe this fits your workflow, anything, let Jen know, and then she'll relay that to myself, who you'd be working with. Be happy to answer those questions. And then before we wrap up, I want to make sure everyone on this call knows about this because it's exclusive to ETHOSystem clients. So we're running a summer special, service special. So you'll receive 20% off Stack services only for ETHOSystem clients. So this is going to be running through end of next month, July 31st. So this is the best entry point we offer, and it's only available to you. So once again, please reach out to Jen if this is something that you're looking for. Then lastly, thank you all for your time today. Really appreciate y'all listening to us, and a big thank you to ETHOSystems, Jen, for partnering with us. Jared and I are both available for follow-up questions if you need to as well. So please reach out directly, and we'll take care of you. Thank you.
Thank you all so much. Have a great rest of your day.